funny thing about signs. They're always there, but people only start noticing them when they're desperate. You wait, you pray, you stare at the sky, hoping something will blink, something will whisper. Something will prove you're not waiting for nothing. You want a promise wrapped in timing, a miracle dressed like a man. And when the world starts to move in strange little patterns, numbers repeating, dreams aligning, strangers saying familiar words, you start to wonder, is it finally happening? Waiting, that's the part nobody likes to talk about. Everyone loves the miracle, the reunion, the moment it all makes sense. But the waiting, that's where the real story happens. The world tells you to rush, to chase, to grab whatever looks shiny enough to fill the silence. But silence isn't empty. It's where things are being rearranged, where invisible hands are setting the stage, where you're being stripped of everything fake, so that what's real can finally find you. Waiting isn't weakness. It's a test of endurance in a world addicted to instant gratification. People confuse stillness with stagnation. They think if nothing's happening, they've been forgotten. But that's not how it works. The waiting room is where character is built, where pride dies and patience breathes. It's not about sitting idly by. It's about holding your ground when everything inside you wants to run. The silence becomes a mirror, forcing you to face the parts of yourself that noise kept hidden. That's why most people never make it through it. They get bored, they get lonely, they get desperate. So they settle for distractions, for temporary comfort dressed as destiny. They build counterfeit connections just to avoid confronting their own emptiness. You see, waiting exposes you. It strips you down until there's no mask left to hide behind. The dreams, the plans, the expectations, all of it starts to crumble. And there you are, raw and restless, wondering if maybe you were foolish to believe in something greater. That's the breaking point. That's where most give up. But that's also where transformation begins. Because waiting isn't punishment, it's pruning. It's the universe cutting off everything that can't grow with you. When you wait long enough, you start to see how chaos has rhythm, how delay has design. The timing isn't off, it's precise. You think you're waiting for something to happen, but in reality, something is waiting for you to change. Maybe that's why it hurts so much, because waiting demands surrender, not to hopelessness, but to the process. To trust that what's being delayed isn't being denied. To believe that silence doesn't mean absence. Most people want answers, but waiting gives you questions instead. Who are you when nothing's happening? Who are you when no one's watching? Who are you when everything you prayed for seems far away? That's when the real version of you begins to surface, the one not shaped by fear or validation, but by faith that refuses to die. Waiting builds a spine where once there was only desire. It teaches you that control is an illusion, that timing belongs to something greater than you. The ones who learn to wait properly, they stop begging for signs. They become the sign. They radiate calm when the world screams chaos. They don't chase what's running. because they understand what's meant for them won't hide forever. They stop performing, stop pretending, stop pleading. They just become. Because waiting at its core is about alignment. It's not about when something will arrive. It's about becoming someone who can recognize it when it does. You've seen people who rush the process, haven't you? They meet someone, call it fate, pour everything in, and when it falls apart, they curse the timing. But timing wasn't wrong. They were. They were still healing, still carrying ghosts, still trying to fill a void instead of facing it. Waiting burns that out of you. It teaches you to sit with loneliness without feeding it, to walk with faith even when the path looks empty, to trust that preparation is love's first language. And it's funny, when you finally stop trying to control it, everything starts to move. That's the irony of it. The moment you stop clawing for proof, life starts sending signs. You begin to notice little shifts, moments, encounters, coincidences that feel too precise to ignore. That's when you realize waiting was never about getting what you wanted. It was about becoming who you were meant to be when it finally arrived. The world laughs at patience because it can't sell it. It sells speed, shortcuts, upgrades. But you can't rush something eternal. You can't manufacture alignment. The seed doesn't argue with the soil. It just grows in silence, waiting for its season. And when the time comes, it doesn't strain or beg, it just blooms. That's what real waiting looks like. Quiet strength, silent faith. A trust that what's meant for you is making its way, even when you can't see it. So when everything feels still, when your prayers hang unanswered, when you start to doubt if you've been forgotten, remember this. The silence isn't mocking you, it's shaping you. The pause isn't the end of your story. It's the part where the author sharpens the plot. Waiting isn't weakness. It's the fire that proves you're strong enough to hold what's coming. Signs. Everyone wants them, but no one knows what to do with them. People beg for proof, for hints, for some divine signal that says, it's time. They look for patterns in the clouds, numbers on clocks, whispers in the wind. But signs aren't proof of what's coming. They're reflections of what's happening inside you. The signs don't appear to convince you. They appear to test you. They're mirrors, not messages. They reveal if your heart's aligned, if your spirit's listening, if you're truly ready for what you keep asking for. You see, everyone says they want something real. Real love, real purpose, real peace. But most can't handle what real requires. Real means patience. Real means discomfort. Real means losing the versions of yourself that begged for attention and keeping only the one that knows its worth. So when the signs start showing up, most people misread them. They see what they want to see instead of what they need to. They twist meaning into comfort. They cling to coincidences like lifelines, hoping to turn noise into prophecy. But signs don't flatter. They expose. They show you the gap between where you are and where you say you want to be. The truth is, signs don't announce arrivals. They prepare you for them. You think a sign means Something's about to happen. But most of the time, it means something's about to be challenged. A sign doesn't say, "Get ready, they're coming." It says, "Let's see if you're really ready." It's a warning, a mirror, a test disguised as revelation. And most people fail it, not because they're unlucky, but because they're impatient. They confuse motion with meaning. They chase after symbols instead of understanding what they're pointing toward. It's easier to romanticize signs than to face their truth. Because if a sign says you need to heal, you'll pretend it says you're healed. If a sign says you need to wait, you'll convince yourself it means hurry. People see what comforts them, not what changes them. And that's why they keep missing the message. The signs don't lie. They just refuse to speak your language. They only speak truth. You ever notice how signs appear when you're quiet? When you stop demanding, when you stop doubting, when you finally shut up and listen. That's because silence is the frequency of truth. The signs don't fight for your attention. They wait for your awareness. They're not hidden, you're just too loud, too distracted by your own thoughts, too obsessed with your own timing. You keep asking for a signal from above while ignoring the one that's been echoing inside you all along. The signs start subtle at first. A word, a song, a stranger's sentence that feels too personal to be random. But when you ignore them, they grow louder. Doors start closing, paths start shifting, people start leaving. You call it bad luck, but maybe it's correction. Maybe it's protection disguised as loss. Maybe it's the universe cleaning up the mess you keep calling destiny. Signs don't always come dressed in light. They come in endings, in silence, in discomfort. That's the part nobody likes to admit, because everyone wants their sign to be beautiful. But sometimes, beauty comes wrapped in destruction. And that's the moment it gets real. The moment you stop demanding that signs fit your fantasy. You stop asking, "What does this mean for me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" Because the purpose of a sign isn't to confirm, it's to prepare. It's not supposed to give you peace immediately. It's supposed to disrupt you just enough to make you change direction. You think signs are about prediction, but they're about perception. The question isn't whether the sign is real. It's whether you are. Whether you've done the work to understand it. Whether you've cleared enough noise to hear the whisper beneath it. Because the truth is, the signs have been speaking all along. You just weren't listening. You were too busy begging for answers while running from the silence that holds them. It's a cruel little game life plays, showing you pieces of the picture before you're ready for the whole thing. And if you force it, if you chase it too hard, you end up mistaking coincidence for confirmation. You'll call distractions destiny, confusion calling, and pain progress. You'll mistake a test for a blessing and wonder why it all falls apart later. Because signs aren't there to comfort. They're there to cleanse. They expose everything fake before what's real can enter. So, maybe the signs you've been seeing aren't about someone coming at all. Maybe they're about someone leaving. Maybe they're not about finding the right person, but about losing the wrong patterns. Maybe they're not about, it's happening soon, but you're almost ready. People want signs to promise, but the truth, signs don't promise anything. They prepare you for everything. You'll know you're ready not when the signs become clear, but when you no longer need them to be. When you stop begging for direction and start walking in faith. When you realize that the universe doesn't waste time showing clues to someone who's already aligned. Signs are not for the desperate, they're for the aware. And once you become aware, the signs don't guide you anymore. They confirm what you already know. Love. Everyone's chasing it like it's some kind of prize at the end of a rigged carnival game. They want it to look perfect, feel perfect, arrive perfectly on time. They want it to fix them, heal them, save them. But love doesn't do any of that. Love doesn't rescue. It reveals. It shows you exactly who you are when the pretending stops. Real love doesn't arrive when you're ready to hide. It arrives when you're finally too tired to keep pretending you're fine. That's the funny thing about it. It shows up right after you've stopped performing. People mistake obsession for love, attachment for connection, attention for meaning. They want fireworks, not foundation. They crave validation, not understanding. And then they wonder why it falls apart. Real love doesn't play by those rules. It doesn't need to impress. It doesn't beg to be noticed. It just is. And that's what makes it so terrifying. Because when something real comes along, it doesn't just fit into your life. It changes it. It doesn't ask what you want. It shows you what you've been avoiding. Love arrives when illusion dies. Not before, not during, after. When the walls you've built start to crumble, and the versions of yourself you've worn for too long stop fitting, that's when it finds you. Not the Instagram version of you, not the one that smiles on command, not the one that keeps pretending they're healed when they're still bleeding. No, the raw one, the broken one, the one who stopped asking for perfect and started praying for peace. Love recognizes that one because it's honest. It's strange, isn't it? How everyone says they want something genuine, but panic the moment they see it. Because real love demands vulnerability, and vulnerability feels like death to the ego. It's not the butterflies that scare people. It's the mirror. Because love doesn't come to decorate your life. It comes to expose it. It shows you every wound you've buried, every wall you've built, every mask you've worn. And most people run. Not because they don't want love, but because they don't want truth. You think love is supposed to feel safe all the time. No, love is supposed to feel real, and reality is messy. It's inconvenient. It asks questions you'd rather avoid. It forces you to face your reflection through another person's eyes. That's why so many call it complicated. It's not complicated. It's confronting. It's the first time someone truly sees you and doesn't flinch. That kind of love can't arrive while you're busy pretending to be flawless. It only comes when you've accepted that you're not. Most people aren't waiting for love. They're waiting for comfort. They want someone to make the noise go away, to fill the silence, to distract them from themselves. But love doesn't do that. Love makes you face the silence. It doesn't fill your emptiness. It makes you deal with it. It doesn't cover your wounds. It helps you heal them, even if it hurts like hell. Because love isn't a drug. It's a mirror. It doesn't numb you. It wakes you up. And here's the cruel truth. Love won't come to the person pretending they're ready. It comes to the one who finally admits they're not. Because readiness isn't perfection. It's surrender. It's saying, I don't have it all figured out, but I'm done running. That's when love walks in. Not when you've mastered control, but when you've lost it. Because love can't exist where fear still runs the show. The world sells love as a fairy tale, a perfect union. Two flawless people finding their missing halves. But love isn't about finding someone to complete you. It's about finding someone who reflects the parts of you that were already whole. The right one doesn't fill your gaps. They reveal your strength. They don't finish your story. They remind you that it was never missing a page. Love doesn't fix you because you were never broken. It just shows you what's been buried under the noise. The illusion of love is soft, sweet, safe. But the reality of love, it's fire. It burns away everything false. It strips the soul of its disguises and forces you to stand bare in the light. And that's why it's rare. Because most people would rather keep their illusions. They'd rather play house than build home. Rather chase passion than face growth. Real love doesn't just give you comfort, it gives you confrontation. And that's why it's worth it. When illusion dies, clarity begins. And clarity isn't loud. It's quiet. It's peaceful. It's when you stop needing proof that someone loves you because you can finally feel it without the noise. It's when you stop demanding perfection because you've learned to appreciate presence. It's when you realize that love was never about finding someone else. It was about learning how to stop losing yourself. So no, love doesn't come when you're flawless. It comes when you're finally honest. It doesn't knock when you're performing. It walks in when you're real. It doesn't need to save you. It just needs you to stop pretending you don't need saving. Because once illusion dies, there's nothing left to protect. And that's when love finally has room to live. People always talk about signs, as if they're neon lights flashing in the sky. They expect something dramatic. A voice from the heavens, a message carved in stone, a miracle that makes everyone gasp. But that's not how signs work. They're quiet, subtle, hidden in plain sight. The kind of things you only notice when you stop talking, stop scrolling, stop running from yourself. The signs aren't out there shouting your name. They're whispering it, waiting for you to listen. And the truth is, most people don't want to. Because if they did, they'd have to admit the message isn't what they wanted to hear. You see, people pray for direction, but they only listen if the answer fits their plan. They ask for signs, but ignore anything that challenges their comfort. They want guidance, but not change. They want confirmation, not conviction. So when life starts sending them signals, closed doors, repeated lessons, strange coincidences, they call it bad luck instead of divine timing. They fight what's trying to guide them, and then wonder why they keep ending up in the same dark corners. It's not because there are no signs. It's because they refuse to read them. Sometimes the signs aren't blessings wrapped in gold. They're warnings wrapped in chaos. They come through pain, betrayal, disappointment. They break your plans to protect your purpose. But humans, they hate interruptions. They cling to what's familiar, even if it's killing them. So when God tries to redirect them, they resist. They call it loss. But loss isn't punishment. It's positioning. It's the universe moving you away from what you thought you wanted toward what you actually need. But that kind of shift feels like falling until you realize it's flight. You ever notice how certain people disappear from your life right before something changes? That's not coincidence. That's pruning. That's life clearing space for something bigger. But people chase after what's been removed, begging for things that were never meant to stay. They mistake absence for abandonment when it's actually preparation. Some signs don't show you where to go. They show you what to leave behind. And that's the hardest part, isn't it? Letting go of what you loved when you finally realize it wasn't love at all. Signs often come through silence. That's the part no one talks about. Because silence terrifies people. It forces them to confront their thoughts, their fears, their truth. But silence is where the signs speak loudest. That uneasy feeling, that restlessness that won't go away. What's not random anxiety? That's your spirit trying to tell you something's off. You can numb it with noise, drown it in distractions, but it won't disappear. Because the truth has a way of echoing until you finally stop running long enough to hear it. There's a difference between coincidence and alignment. Coincidence is luck, alignment is divine. When you start seeing patterns, numbers repeating, opportunities resurfacing, names that keep crossing your path, that's not random. That's orchestration. Life has a rhythm, a pattern, a code. But you can't see it while you're too busy forcing things that were never meant to fit. You only recognize alignment when you surrender control, when you stop demanding timelines and start trusting timing. And here's the thing. Signs don't always confirm what you want. Sometimes they expose what you're avoiding. You ask for clarity, and suddenly everything that was hidden comes into the light. You see people's true intentions. You feel a sudden urge to walk away from what once felt right. That's not confusion. That's awakening. It's uncomfortable, yes, but necessary. Because clarity isn't kind. It's honest. It doesn't protect your illusions. It tears them apart. But the most powerful signs aren't external. They're internal. That shift inside you that whispers, something's about to change. That pull in your gut that tells you to move, even when logic says stay. That isn't paranoia. It's alignment preparing to unfold. Most ignore it because it doesn't make sense. They want evidence before action. But faith doesn't work like that. Faith is moving without the map, because you trust the voice that told you to go. And when things start falling apart faster than you can understand, that's usually when something greater is coming together. The delay, the detour, the dead end, it all looks like disaster until you realize it's redirection. You weren't denied. You were being detoured toward what's truly yours. But people panic when control slips away. They mistake divine rearrangement for chaos, when really it's precision. Every crack in your plan was calculated to let light in. Every ending was designed to make room for the next beginning. So when you start seeing the patterns, don't dismiss them. When you feel that unshakable tension, don't suppress it. When the same lesson keeps repeating, stop blaming fate and start paying attention. Because the signs aren't coming. They're already here. In your exhaustion, in your intuition, in the doors that won't open no matter how hard you knock. You think the universe is silent, but it's been shouting through every closed chapter, every uneasy night, every sudden shift. It's not waiting for you to understand. It's waiting for you to listen. Power, everyone wants it. Few understand it, and even fewer are ready for it. The funny thing about power is that it doesn't come when you chase it. It comes when you stop pretending you need to prove something. See, the world's full of people playing kings and queens in their little castles of insecurity. They dress up their fear as confidence, their greed as ambition, their desperation as purpose. They think power means control, controlling people, outcomes, appearances. But real power, it's quieter than that. It's the kind that doesn't announce itself, the kind that doesn't flinch when the world starts burning. Most people crave attention, not power. They want applause, validation, followers, cheap fuel to keep the ego alive. They think if enough eyes are watching them, they matter. But that's not power, that's dependency. True power doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need to prove it's right. It simply is. The kind of power that can't be bought or borrowed, only built. And it's built in silence, through scars, through loss, through lessons that no one claps for. Real power comes when you've been broken enough times that you stop fearing the fall. It's born from people who've had everything stripped away. Status, love, control. And still stood up. Because once you've lost it all and survived, what's left to fear? The worst already happened. You bled, you burned. And you learned that no one can take what's already been rebuilt in fire. That's the kind of strength that terrifies the world. The strength that doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't bow. The powerful don't talk about power. They live it. They don't waste time arguing about who's right. They move with certainty, not noise. You can spot them easily. They walk differently, not with arrogance, but with awareness. They don't need to shout to be heard. Their silence speaks louder than most people's screams. Because power isn't about domination. It's about discipline. The discipline to walk away from nonsense. The discipline to stay calm when provoked. The discipline to stand alone when everyone else needs a crowd to feel brave. You want to know how people lose power. They give it away, to anger, to envy, to fear. They let emotions control them. Let opinions define them. Let rejection break them. The moment you react to everything, you become a puppet to everything. Real power is restraint, the ability to look chaos in the eye and not flinch, the ability to know you could destroy someone, but choosing not to. That's strength, the kind that's misunderstood, underestimated, and deeply unsettling to those who rely on control. People think power makes you free, but it actually makes you responsible. The stronger you get, the more dangerous your decisions become. You can no longer afford to act out of ego or impulse. That's why true power is lonely. Because most people can't handle the weight that comes with it. They want the crown, but not the cost. They want the influence, but not the isolation. They want to lead, but they still crave approval. You can't have both. Power demands sacrifice. The death of your comfort, your excuses, your need to be understood. You ever notice how the ones who crave power the most usually fall the fastest? Because obsession with power is weakness in disguise. They build empires on control, and when control slips, everything crumbles. But those who understand power know it's fluid. They don't cling, they flow. They adapt. They evolve. When storms come, they don't resist. They dance in the chaos, because they know storms don't destroy the strong. They reveal them. Power isn't in the hands, it's in the mind. It's the ability to choose calm over panic, purpose over pleasure, patience over revenge. It's being unshakable when everything else shakes. It's smiling when people expect you to break. It's not about showing strength. It's about being strength. There's a difference. One demands attention, the other commands respect. And respect can't be forced. It's earned in silence, in consistency, in the shadows where no one's watching. The powerful understand something simple. Control starts within. If you can't master your emotions, your habits, your reactions, you'll forever be a slave to your circumstances. You'll keep chasing temporary highs, calling it success, until you burn out. But once you master yourself, the world stops having leverage over you. People can betray you, ignore you, misunderstand you, and it won't shake you. Because your foundation isn't built on them, it's built on conviction. And the real secret: power attracts power, not the loud, glittery kind, the quiet, steady kind. When you operate from strength, the right things find you. Opportunities, people, timing. It all starts aligning. Because you're no longer vibrating from lack, from fear, from desperation. You've become the thing you were chasing. That's when life stops being a battlefield and starts being a mirror. Everything you wanted reflects what you've already become. So power, it's not in what you control, it's in what you can let go of. It's in refusing to play small just to make others comfortable. It's in the decision to keep walking, even when no one believes in the path you're on. It's not about conquering others. It's about conquering the voice inside that tells you to give up. Because once you silence that voice, Once you realize you were the weapon all along, nothing outside of you can ever win again.